Hello and welcome to another episode of the Barbara Ireland Mind Loops Book Club. Today's book is Ruthless River, Love and Survival by Raft on the Amazon's relentless Madre de Dios by Holly Fitzgerald. I chose this book partly because I loved it and I just couldn't get it out of my mind, but also because hearing this passage from a true life survival story will reconnect you with intense appreciation for whatever you do have in your life. So many mind loops begin from a sense of lack, like, why don't I have more money? Why aren't I further in my career? I can't stand where I live. I can't stand, whoever the current president may be. I want a better car. I'm so unattractive. I'm overweight, old, young, stuck, disappointed, lonely, whatever it is. And the problem with mind loops and why they're so detrimental to our happiness is because when we're looping, we're focusing on what we don't have and what is going wrong in our lives. Shifting your focus to what you do have and what's going right in your life is powerful medicine, and it's a key element in de-looping mind loops. Ruthless River follows a newlywed couple on what was supposed to be a fun and exhilarating adventure into the Amazon, but it quickly turned into a horrible and fascinating nightmare that had me riveted, and boy, did I ever have appreciation for every little thing in my life while I was reading this. I will read a few pages from chapter 39. During the night, I awoke to high-pitched, angry shrieks roaring back and forth. They seemed closer than ever. "Fitz," I whispered, but he was in a deep sleep. My muscles were taut rubber bands ready to snap. For several minutes I didn't move, waiting, open-eyed in the dark. After the screeches ceased, I didn't hear anything beyond Fitz's short, hard breaths. Then they stopped. "Fitz!" I listened to his chest. "Fitz!" I poked him. He groaned and turned onto his side. It was just a matter of time before animals found us. I was amazed they hadn't already. A loud splash outside the tent made my heart stop. I lay rigid, trying to picture my hand sinking into Zelda's, their dog's, thick, rough, warm and soft. The bees began. Their thumping against the tent woke me in the morning. Parrots prattled like people, making me feel more alone than ever. I put my hand on Fitz's shoulder for assurance, then began to trace his cheek with my fingers, feeling the bones beneath his beard, his jutting jaw. My love. Since we've been trapped, I'd wondered every night if we'd wake up in the morning. Fitz was so still, so quiet. I listened for his breathing. I couldn't hear it. "Please, Fitz, wake up," I nudged him. He didn't stir. "Fitz," I said, frightened. I shook him. His arm fell limp across his chest. My heart raced. Was he going to die in my arms? Was he already dead? I took in a deep breath. This raft felt like a double coffin. If we had to die, I wanted to go first. "Fitz!" My voice was shaking. "We're going to make it out of here. I just know it." I kissed him. I didn't know at all. He stirred, opening his blue eyes, graying over, cloudy windows to a body consuming itself. "Hi," he whispered. "Thank heavens!" I kissed him again. I wanted to squeeze him, but it would be too painful. Our rice paper thin skin hung over our bones with no layer of fat. I placed my hand gently on his ribs. "I love you." He kissed my hair but said nothing. I guessed it was around 9 o'clock, but the heat and humidity inside the plastic were skyrocketing. I was sure it was 100 degrees. Our perspiration pooled onto the synthetic sleeping bag. I fanned Fitz with the small parrot fan. It did nothing but move the stagnant air around. "It's brutal, Fitz. I've got to open the flap." His body stiffened, but he nodded. It took a few minutes to haul myself to my knees. then pushed the netting aside and opened the tent flap. A light breeze soothed us for barely a second before the bees invaded. The 2 hornets hovered at my face and flew to the tent peak to continue their mud construction. I froze, waiting for the bees to land. Hundreds swarmed to Fitz's legs and arms, up his shorts, into his shirt sleeves. He lay motionless as they settled. Sweat poured from my forehead and burned my eyes. Bees crawled over my cheeks to my eyelids and stung me as I inched back to the sleeping bag. "I've got to get in the water," I whimpered, turning toward the tent opening again. The bees hovered above me as I immersed myself in the channel, clinging to the side of the raft, letting my legs float behind me. For those few moments of cool weightlessness, I felt human again. My foot banged against something. I held my breath, but nothing moved around me. Just a branch? Slithery bodies brushed my legs. I tried to pull myself onto the raft, but couldn't get a grip. I was even weaker than I'd been yesterday. A soft hum in the distance caught my ear. I looked up. A black dot in the sky was heading toward me, growing to glistening silver. "Fitz! It's a plane!" Leaning on the raft with my left arm, I tried to force my right arm up to wave, but it refused to work. The plane flew 50 yards to the right of me. I continued trying to wave until it disappeared. A few minutes later, 2 more planes flew overhead, one after another. My heart soared again. We hadn't seen a plane in weeks. Now 3 planes in one morning. This must be a sign. I watched them bounce away over the trees, listening for them to circle back. They didn't. In my heart, I knew no one was looking for us. No one was coming. I hauled myself onto the raft and crept back into the tent, feeling more sorrow than I ever knew existed. Fitz's eyes were closed. The bees covered his entire body, even his flaking lips. "Fitz, I just saw 3 planes. They might—" I faltered, looking through the bees for my husband. I waved at them. They rose, and I took Fitz's hand. He opened his eyes and gave me a wan smile. "I don't feel too well," he said. "What hurts, Fitz?" "I feel so weak. I don't know if I can get up." I tried to keep my voice steady, trying not to think of how strong he'd always been. "You need water, Fitz." Reaching for the canteen, I put it to his lips, carefully supporting his head. He sipped until he drunk it all. "That helps," he mumbled, turning his face toward me. I had a second container by my side. He took a few sips from that bottle and grimaced. "I'll pretend it's a cold beer," I urged, keeping it at his mouth. Shaking his head, he finished off the bottle, then closed his eyes and let his head fall back in my arms. His skin was gray. "Fitz," I pleaded, "we've come this far." I felt tears. They trickled down onto my cheek, then fell onto his, disappearing into his beard. I gripped his hand as if that could keep me from losing him. Hand in hand, I remembered, we had often run downhill at Squant's Pond near our rental college, with our dog zigzagging back and forth at our sides. We ran through grass, later through snow, laughing, falling, embracing. Our dog Zelda barking for us to get up. The memory strengthened me. It seemed to generate a kind of clarity, as if a dense fog had lifted to reveal mountains I'd never known were there. Calmness settled inside me. "Fitz, we've had enough." And that's where I'll stop. With all the bees and the starvation and everything else that dashed hopes, I hope that brings some appreciation to you in your life for what you do have. And whoever is in your life that you feel love towards, whether it's a partner or friends or parents or a child, this kind of book really brings home the importance of our relationships and expressing that love to each other and finding the best in each other. So I hope you enjoyed the book today, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Bye.